Come to Leavenworth to enjoy the mountains, enjoy the recreation here, get a little taste of Bavaria. It's a unique gem in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains of eastern Washington. As you pull into town, you'll just be amazed by how they've stuck to the Bavarian theme, and the mountain access is about as good as I've ever experienced.
Hey, this is Cindy Scott from Cinder's Travels. Welcome to the Locals Know Best podcast. This is episode 33. Locals Know Best is a bi-weekly podcast where my guests share the places and outdoor travel adventures they love most, right in their own backyards. Topics range from unique lodging options, treasured outdoor activities, favorite dining spots, and a breakdown of whether the insta-famous and possibly overrated spots in town are even worth checking out. Today, I'll be speaking with Tom Potter about all of his favorite outdoor adventures in a town you may know as one of the most picturesque alpine-style villages in the United States, Leavenworth, Washington. I'm very excited for this episode because Leavenworth has always been in the back of my mind as an excellent fit for this podcast, and even more so for one of the holiday episodes. We will, of course, talk a bit about the holiday season and how it affects and influences this Christmas-loving town. But Tom also does a fantastic job explaining why Leavenworth is so much more than an adorable Bavarian town engulfed in holiday lights. A little bit more about Tom. He's a local Leavenworth entrepreneur. When he first arrived in the area, he spent several years working in the bars and restaurants throughout the village to fund his recreational habits. During that time, he inadvertently found himself planning vacations for people so they wouldn't waste a minute of their stay. Eventually, the Teapot Experience was born, an all-inclusive trip planning service he operates that focuses on bringing you the best of Leavenworth. With this host and concierge service, he helps visitors make the most of their time in the area, specializing in unique experiences based around outdoor recreation, food, wine, and scenery. If you want to follow along with links to all the places we're talking about and a map of the area, this episode's show notes can be found at localsknowbestpodcast.com/33. As always, thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. Hey, Tom, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing super good. How are you?
Good. I'm really pumped to get into Leavenworth, especially for the holidays. What an amazing place to talk about. I actually posted on Instagram for listener questions, and I was surprised how many people didn't know about Leavenworth. So a lot of the listeners, this is a great episode, I think, because they don't know much about the area.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's fill them in.
So tell us a little bit about how long you've lived there and what brought you to the area.
So I've been in Leavenworth off and on since 2009. I was in college in Ellensburg, which is about 60 miles south at Central Washington University. So Leavenworth was relatively close. It's about an hour drive north. And it's the recreation mecca of Washington. I just fell in love with the area and the community and decided this was where I wanted to live. So after grad school, I moved out here, and I've been here ever since.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what makes you an expert on the area. So you've been there for a while. Mm-hmm. What makes you so ingrained with Leavenworth?
So I came out here originally to become a whitewater rafting guide, and I spent a summer doing that. And during that summer, I learned how to whitewater kayak. So I started coming out here mainly for the river sports. I returned every summer to work on the river in some facet or another. And I kept coming back year after year for rafting and kayaking. And then I got involved in some of the winter sports like Nordic skiing and backcountry touring and snowboarding. And then started mountain biking a lot. And my college background is in outdoor recreation. So I applied a lot of my skills learned in college to small businesses that I started in Leavenworth that were based around recreation. I pretty much spend all my free time recreating, whether it's mountain biking or whitewater kayaking or snowboarding or Nordic skiing or any obscure mountain sports. That's what I'm doing. So over my years here, I've become involved in different organizations that are community event-based and get people together on the river or in the mountains or riding bikes, and that's just what I do.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the businesses.
So originally I started a management company where we ran a river tubing company for a couple years and basically facilitated a fun and easy experience for people to go float the river. Now I operate a host and concierge service where I plan vacations for people as they come to Leavenworth, primarily based around recreation but I also have deep connections in the valley with wine, beer, and food. So I like to create an all-inclusive recreation plus food and wine and beer. So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Yeah, wow. You are a perfect guest then, because that's exactly what this podcast is. Just giving people like how to spend an amazing day outdoors in the area. So I'm really excited to go through this and hear all the ideas you have.
Happy to tell you about it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Leavenworth and what makes it so picturesque, and then also what makes it so unique, especially for outdoorsy types?
So the downtown area of Leavenworth is only about 3.5 blocks long, and we're nestled right into the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. The mountains that surround Leavenworth are almost 6,000 feet tall. And a little bit further back from town, they get up to above 8,000 feet. So if you can envision a little Bavarian village right at the base of a 6,000-foot mountain, that's kind of what you're going to envision. And it has two streets that run parallel and has lots of little shops and restaurants. I mean, you can easily kill a day shopping and wine tasting and eating and enjoying the little Bavarian village. And it is very unique and very fun, especially being in the middle of Eastern Washington. You drive through agriculture towns and rural Washington, and all of a sudden you're smack dab in Bavaria at the foothills of the Cascade Mountains.
It's crazy beautiful. Can't even think of that many places in the United States that look like that. Honestly, and we've we've circled like a few times. It's really special.
It's a gem for sure. And just the amount of access and the proximity to the access of the mountains is one of the most unique parts. I've been to a lot of mountain towns or recreation meccas where you've got a lot of access in the area, but you're still driving an hour this direction, an hour this direction, and you've got a lot close, but nothing really there. Leavenworth, it's all there. I mean, you drive 5 minutes one direction to get something, and then you drive another 10 minutes the other direction, and you're really just right at the hub of it all.
What really makes that such a holiday town? What is the big factor, the big draw for the holidays?
Well, I think the main draw for people for the holidays is the Christmas lights. The city of Leavenworth puts a ton of resources into decorating the entire village as a little Christmas town. And it looks incredible. Like, you come into town and you're instantly in awe of how beautiful it is. All of the businesses, all of the trees, pretty much everything that has space for Christmas lights has Christmas lights on it. I don't know if you'll ever experience a town that's more lit up for Christmas than Leavenworth. They've done an amazing job marketing Leavenworth as a Christmas town, almost to their detriment, because if you were to come into Leavenworth on any weekend in December, I would say it's a little overcrowded. So be cautious with that. One of the nice things about their lighting and what they do for the holidays is that they leave it all up until Valentine's Day. So I would say one pro tip is to potentially come to Leavenworth after the holidays, because for someone who is outdoor recreation based and kind of likes to get away from it all and go explore the mountains and have some serenity, it can be a little much.
Might not be the best time to show up.
Might not be. I mean,
this is going to turn into an anti-holiday episode.
I know. Yeah, that's the sad part about it.
But that's a great tip that it stays up till February and to come then. And I'll say, as someone who visited it in October, it still was pretty like holiday feeling, magical. I mean, it's always a Bavarian town. It's always really cute, honestly. I think visiting it any time of year, you still get a little bit of that feel.
Definitely. Leavenworth is Christmas town year-round, but especially from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day, Christmas town is in full effect. And it is beautiful. Definitely come check it out. But the 3 weekends leading up to Christmas are very, very busy.
Okay.
And I would say almost mainly from a traffic perspective, getting into town can be challenging. And then parking and actually enjoying the town can also be very challenging. We have about 32 to 3,500 full-time local residents. So pretty small on the population side.
Yeah.
But on any given weekend when there's a big tourism event, I mean, it can get upwards of 30 to 40,000 people in town.
Wow. That is a lot. That's more than I expect you to say.
Right.
Yeah, that is busy.
Yes. A lot of the downtown facilities are a little maxed out on some of those busy weekends.
Yeah.
So coming at other times of the year might be beneficial. Leavenworth actually has a live webcam.
Oh, yeah. Share of that.
Yeah, so I think you just go to the Leavenworth Chamber website, and there's a link to the live webcam. So if you can't make it to Leavenworth and you still want to see what downtown Leavenworth looks like, you can go to the live webcam and see Leavenworth in real time.
That's so great to know. It's so funny. For so long, I thought that webcams were kind of hokey, and I was like, who watches those? And then when COVID happened, I was obsessed with watching Old Faithful on the
Oh yeah,
webcam just
funny.
because it like made me feel like I wasn't stuck in a spot. So that's great to know.
Yeah, it's great to check in if you're curious about how busy town is at a certain moment or what the weather's like if you're coming in from out of town. Just go to the Leavenworth Chamber website and find the webcam link, and you can see what's going on at the exact moment.
When are the best times to come visit Leavenworth?
I would say January, February, if you really want to come and have the winter experience. That's when we actually have some snow that's solidified and actually hung around for a while. December it can be kind of iffy. So January and February will give you like a full-blown winter experience. We've got Nordic skiing, snowshoeing. We've got a full-size mountain resort about 28 miles away at Stevens Pass. So if you're looking to go ride chairlifts and go skiing and snowboarding, we've got that right up the road. We've got another resort in Wenatchee called Mission Ridge, which is about an hour away. So if you're looking to base camp out of Leavenworth, have a little Christmas town that's snowy and all lit up, and then go enjoy winter sports, January and February is definitely the time. And then in the springtime, we have the melt, when all the snow melts off and everything starts turning green and it gets very beautiful and lush, and the mountains are still snow capped, but everything down low is green and the wildflowers are popping out. So April, May is about that time. That's probably one of my favorite times of year because you can still go do winter sports up high in the mountains, but then you have running rivers, so you can go do river sports. And then down low, I mean, the elevation of Leavenworth is only 1,100 feet. So we're pretty low on the spectrum. So it's pretty common that we'll have snow up high and dirt down low. So you can go hiking or mountain biking or any activities that require trails.
And then anything you want to say about summer or fall?
Summer, I would say, is when Leavenworth is really coasting. People are coming to town every day. People are on summer break. Families are traveling. People are having lots of events like weddings or bachelor and bachelorette parties and just friend gatherings. So from June through end of August, I would say everything's pretty consistently rocking. I mean, people are coming to town to raft and tube and wine taste, and it's just warm and beautiful and just a fun time of year. And then as we move into fall, the fall colors are absolutely phenomenal. October is a beautiful month here. It's cooling off. All the leaves are changing. It's definitely one of the more quiet times of year. I would say November is probably the most quiet month of the year in Leavenworth, which is nice because it's just relaxing and the colors are beautiful, and you kind of get those dismal days where it's just gray and cold, and it's a nice time to relax.
I didn't know that. So we were there in that time period, the fall. And
Yes.
so I saw it at its least packed, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, October can be busy because of Oktoberfest.
Okay.
So if you're here in October, you won't really you'll feel the busyness because everyone's here to get down for the October festivities. But once November hits, we have a couple weeks of downtime, and then come Thanksgiving, it really cranks up for the holidays.
Okay. Well, for our adventure loving listeners, what time of year are we going to be doing this perfect day with you that you're planning out?
So the perfect day, I would have to say, would be in March or April because that's when we've got it all. You can
Okay.
wake up in the morning, you can drive to the mountains, you can go ski powder, and then you can head back toward town. You can paddle the river. It can be flowing at all sorts of ranges of flows. So if you're a kayaker or a rafter, having some good white water is definitely going to be there. And then working our way back toward town, like I said, we're at a relatively low elevation. So a lot of the trails will be running by then. So you can go mountain biking, rock climbing. I mean, it's pretty much all available in the spring. So I love having full days where you literally do 3 to 5 sports in the same day.
Is that what we're going to do in
That's
this
what we're gonna
episode?
do. That's what we're gonna do.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's gonna be a full day, but we're gonna fit in a lot.
All right. Well, let's start it off. Where are we waking up on our day?
So waking up, I encourage people to stay at Airbnbs in the area because it gives you some flexibility with your group. Like Leavenworth does get busy to the point where it is hard to get larger groups into hotels in downtown. If you're traveling with just a couple, it's fun to get a room downtown because you're in the heart of the village and you really feel the Bavarian effect. But with larger groups, being out at your own place is cool because you can do your own grocery shopping and just have your own little base camp for all of your activities. Especially on a big multi-sport day, you're probably going to have a lot of gear, so you're going to want some storage for all that stuff. I like to have some place with a garage or at least a big living room that you can move it all into. So there's lots of places to stay around town, and it just depends on what you can get your hands on.
How close would you recommend staying to town?
That's a good question. The zip code of Leavenworth is a pretty massive range. A lot of people that book a place in town sometimes end up being like half an hour from the village. So it's good to do your research when you're shopping for a place to stay to see how close it is to the actual village, because sometimes that can backfire. Personally, I like being within a mile and a half of town. That way, if you do want to go into town for some evening festivities, you don't have a long drive afterwards, or you can just walk to town from wherever you're staying. I mean, a mile walk isn't too bad.
Yeah, no, that is why I asked, actually. When we stayed, we were about half an hour away, and we were technically still in Leavenworth, but the drives back were long. So that was great.
Yeah, long and in the mountains. And yeah, you can definitely be surprised by having a little bit of a commute.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's start off our day with some food or some coffee. Where are we going to go?
All right, so kicking off the day, we're going to stop at the Argonaut Espresso Shop. It's run by a local couple. They do a great job. They've got great coffee. They have a great little breakfast menu. It's small, but the food is delicious. They specialize in biscuits and biscuit breakfast sandwiches.
Mm.
You have to get there pretty early because the biscuits tend to sell out.
Oh, wow.
So luckily they've got a backup of English muffins, but you definitely want to kick it off with their biscuit. So a biscuit breakfast sandwich or their breakfast burrito is delicious, and a good espresso. And
how early is early? Like within the first hour?
Within the first hour or two, I would say.
Okay.
I think they open at 6:30 or 7. And if you're there at 9, you're probably not getting a biscuit.
Got it.
Yep.
These are the important questions.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then what is our first outdoor activity then?
Well, we're going to go up high and get some snow. We've got about a half-hour drive from Leavenworth up to Stevens Pass Mountain Resort. Hopefully, on this perfect day, it just snowed a bunch, and we'll get ourselves a little powder morning. The nice thing about Stevens Pass being so close is that you can justify going up there for an hour or two and not feel like you just drove 4 hours to go ride for a couple hours.
Yeah.
I love just going up there for a morning of snowboarding and then coming back to town before lunch. Having it close is definitely a treat, especially if the snow's good. And this perfect day would probably be on a Monday through Thursday. On the weekends, everything is just a bit more busy. I wouldn't throw the perfect day in the middle of a Saturday.
Yeah. All right. So we did that for a few hours. Skied or snowboarded?
Yeah, ski or snowboard. And then we'll start working our way back toward town. So if you're headed east on Highway 2, about 6 miles before town, you enter Tumwater Canyon, which follows the Wenatchee River through a canyon. And the Wenatchee River in that section is all Class 3 through Class 5 whitewater, and some of the best whitewater kayaking in the valley. So to be able to go skiing or snowboarding all morning and then have a awesome whitewater river on the way home. So what we'll generally do is on our way up to go skiing or snowboarding, we'll drop a car at the takeout of the river. And then we'll go ski or snowboard all morning, and we'll bring our kayaks with us. And then on the way back down to town, we'll change into our kayaking gear and then kayak a couple miles of whitewater back toward town.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's pretty sweet. To have that on the way is a real treat.
Yeah, let me ask, for people coming into the area, are there places where we can rent the equipment to do this scenario?
So for kayaking, there's no kayak rental in town. No one rents kayaks without including a lesson or a guided trip. Wild water rafting would be your local outlet for kayak instruction.
Okay.
But after Tumwater Canyon, the river mellows out into about 2.5 miles of flat water, which is perfect for someone who just wants to go out on their stand-up paddleboard or their inner tube and just float on some flat water downstream and get some great views, and you can float right into town. There's several outlets in town that you can rent your paddleboards and your inner tubes. The rental season for that is going to be May through September. So on our early spring perfect day, you're definitely going to have to be pretty self-sufficient with your gear.
Yeah. Okay. Important to know.
Yep.
And then what's next?
So next, we're in town. Gotta get some lunch. One of my favorite lunch spots is called Parsley's Pantry, and it's right on Highway 2 next to the Innsbrucker Inn, which is a hotel. It's kind of hidden, so you definitely want to look it up and map it out on your GPS, but it's a great little sandwich spot. All the food's super fresh and the flavors are incredible, and it's a full meal. You don't walk away from Parsley's hungry ever. So that's one of my favorite spots. Another spot to definitely check out is the Munchenhaus Sausage Garden. I mean, if you're in Leavenworth, you got to have a bratwurst, and if you're gonna have a bratwurst, the Munchenhaus is the spot to do it.
That's the best one?
That's the best one. They've got a big outdoor garden that you can hang out in, great views of the mountains, and they've been around for quite some time. So that's the spot to check out.
Okay. Well, then what about after brats?
So after brats, we're all fueled up, ready for our afternoon activities. So probably straight to the bike trails, because hopefully some trails are melted out. The Leavenworth Ski Hill area is our main hub for mountain biking, and we've got a couple nice up tracks that give you about 1,400 feet of elevation gain, and then access a bunch of different downhill options, everything from easy and mellow and flowy, all the way to steep and rocky and a little bit more aggressive. But the views you're getting out of the trails are incredible, especially after coming down from the mountains. You can be like, we were just up there skiing, and now we're down here riding bikes, and life is good.
Yeah, I want to ask you about a couple of your favorites because there are a ton of bike trails in the area. I've done one before. It's Freund Canyon. Have you ever done that one before, and how does it rank in comparison to some of your favorites?
Definitely. So Freund Canyon is one of the easier loops to access. It's an 8-mile loop, and it involves 4 miles of pretty solid gradient uphill, and then 4 miles of nice mellow flow downhill. So there's nothing on Freund that's too aggressive. If you're newer to mountain biking, Freund is an awesome trail to step up to. If you're an avid mountain biker, it's definitely worth checking out. It's very fast, it's fun, it's flowy, and it accesses Rosie Boa, which is another ridgeline trail that's right above Freund Canyon. And it also accesses a trail called Ribbed, which is a little bit more aggressive. It's got some jumps, and it's got a couple steeper sections. So I would say Ribbed and Rosie are probably my two favorite trails in that zone. When I'm home, I ride those trails all the time because you can go out for an hour, get a solid uphill pedal in, and then get a beautiful descent on some ridgeline trail with views of the mountains. That whole area is all built and maintained by the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, the Central Washington chapter. They're all trails that are built and maintained by paid professionals. So you know when you ride that area, you're going to have some good trails.
Yeah, and it was how you described it in the beginning, the trails around there, just beautiful. Loved every part of that. Like, you really are up on a ridgeline. You're seeing the whole area. Some of the best views I've ever seen mountain biking.
You really can't go wrong. You can spend a whole weekend exploring the ski hill area and not ride the same trail twice.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And the Leavenworth ski hill itself is something to take note of. It's one of the more historic parts of Leavenworth. The lodge up there was built in the 1920s out of locally sourced timber, and the Leavenworth ski hill is actually home to one of the first full-size ski jumps in the state of Washington for the sport of ski jumping. And they've got all sorts of history up there dating back to the late 20s. It's definitely worth checking out if you come to Leavenworth, no matter what time of year it is. In the summer, it's a mountain bike hub, so you can go up there, you can grab a basket of chicken strips and a beer after your ride, and just check out the scenery and some history. And then in the wintertime, the ski hill is actually operational. And it has 2 rope tows and a tubing hill, and it has a magic carpet for the little kids. And it's definitely a place to get the family out to and play on the snow and have some hot cocoa or some hard cider or whatever fits your fancy.
Yeah, fun. Okay, so we've skied, we've kayaked, we've bike rode. What else?
A couple other activities that you could fit in. If it was a little bit more snowy in town, the Nordic skiing in Leavenworth is awesome. If I'm doing this multi-sport day a little earlier in the winter, I would definitely throw in some Nordic skiing. We have 3 groomed Nordic trails in town that are groomed daily. So if you like to skate ski or classic cross-country ski, we've got trails for all ability levels. And then the ski hill that I'd mentioned also has Nordic that's lit until 9 o'clock p.m. So if you're looking to get your evening skate on or your evening classic ski, you can get off work whenever you do and cruise up there and get your Nordic on.
Dang, that's cool.
That is cool.
One thing I realized we haven't talked about at all yet is hiking. And we're big hikers. We actually did a lot of hikes while we were there.
Okay.
So I'd like to talk about that for a moment too, and what you can kind of get into in the area.
Definitely. Yeah, so it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of hiking. I mean, we've got trails through town that follow the river for the novice hiker or someone who just wants a mellow walk, and those are relatively flat. We've got trails up at the Leavenworth ski hill that have a couple hundred feet of elevation gain and access some great views, and those are all professionally maintained. And then we have trails that cover almost 20 miles through the Cascades within 15 minutes of town. So if you're really looking to go on a mountain adventure, you can easily gain 6,000 feet within a 10-minute drive.
One trail that we did that I don't think was that far away, Kolchak Lake Trail.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I highly recommend that anyone listening. I don't know if you think there's better options, but it's one of those lakes that looks like it came out of a national park. It's beautiful, gem colored, shockingly beautiful. I mean, it's a little bit more of a difficult hike, I would say, but totally worth it. What do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree. The Kolchak hike gains about 2,000 feet over 4 miles. So it's a great hike. It's very accessible. Definitely do that one in the late summer, I would say.
Yeah.
After all the snow is melted and the trail is in good condition. Also, the bugs are a little less later in the summer. Early summer, it can be pretty buggy up there.
Okay.
But like you said, it looks like it came straight out of a National Geographic or a national park, and it's absolutely stunning.
And then the other one I wanted to bring up, the Icicle Ridge Trail that's really close to town. That trail is actually the picture of the podcast.
Oh, cool.
So I was excited to have this one because I've had this picture every episode, but I've not done a Leavenworth episode yet.
Well, now you've got it.
I know.
Yeah, the Icicle Ridge hike is definitely a town favorite. It's about a 2-mile hike and climbs about 1,400 feet and gives you a aerial view of the town of Leavenworth. It makes Leavenworth look like a little square below you.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend that people do that one. It's a lot of switchback, can be kind of mundane, but it definitely gets you up there, gets you some great views, and it's definitely a workout. No one's ever come off Icicle Ridge being like, oh, that was too easy.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it was a lot of switchbacks because it really was.
Yeah.
But when you get up there, epically beautiful again. You see the whole town. A great Instagram spot, really.
Totally. Yeah, it really puts the whole valley in perspective. Like from town, you can see the mountains, but you're kind of boxed in by the mountains. Once you get up to the Icicle Ridge viewpoint, you look down on the village and you can kind of get your wherewithal of what's going on down there.
Was there anything else you wanted to put in our day, or is it time to head back into town?
So things are probably getting dark because we're still not quite to daylight savings time. So we're probably going to come back to town, and we might call that for the recreation side of it for the day and then start moving into our nightlife a little bit. We're probably going to be ready for a beer, so we've got to go to the Icicle Brewing Company.
Yeah, I saw your hat. You're wearing an icicle hat.
Oh yeah, I am wearing an icicle hat. Yeah, no, the Icicle people are my crew, and they run a great brewery there. The beer is phenomenal. The owners and the staff are world class, and it's just a great place to hang out.
They make one there that I loved. What is it? Dark Persuasion, I think it's called.
The German chocolate cake.
Yes, it's so good.
Yep.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone that tried the Dark Persuasion and wasn't blown away.
Yeah, I'm not a huge beer drinker these days. I genuinely try to be gluten-free because I have a little bit of a minor allergy there, but sometimes things are just too darn delicious and get me. And I had to drink the whole thing. It was delicious.
Yep, it's literally like a slice of cake with some alcohol in it.
Yeah. Is there food there too? Or are we just getting a drink and then we're going to go do dinner?
They do have food, and the food's great. So if you need a snack, they've got a meat and cheese platter. They've got some sandwiches and soups. It doubles as a great lunch spot if you want to have a beer and some lunch and sit out by one of the propane fire pits and hang out. Great place to do that. Or if you just need a snack after your ride and need something to wash down with your beer, then they do have some good food there. But personally, I like to go grab a beer or two at the brewery and then head next door to the brewery to a cool little restaurant called Sulla Vita. And it's literally the next establishment down the street from the brewery. And it is a Mediterranean tapas restaurant. All their food is served to be shared, and it's all cooked in a wood-fired oven that they fuel with locally sourced applewood. So it's a great place to go with a crew and order a whole array of dishes, and everyone just shares and has a little bit of everything. And the staff there is super fun, and the environment is just one of those places that you want to spend some time at.
Yeah, what's your favorite things to eat there?
So they've got a great dish to start with. It's a stuffed mushrooms. It's mushroom stuffed with chorizo and a sharp white cheddar. Those are super tasty. They also have a flank steak that's served over a bed of sauteed kale, spinach, and collard greens. And they top that with a mushroom marsala or like a gorgonzola cream sauce. And then they also have awesome hand tossed pizzas made to order that are kind of on the personal size. But like I said, you order a bunch of food for your table and everyone just has a little bit of everything.
That all sounds delicious.
It definitely doesn't suck.
I'll go there now.
Right. And then right across the street from that is a place called the Walkabout Grill, which is a Mongolian grill. It's one of those places where you would go load up a bowl of uncooked food and they would cook it on the wok right in front of you. You definitely get a lot of food. I mean, I guess as much as you put in your bowl. Every time I go, I tend to have a very full bowl. So great place to get a full meal. And they have a bar upstairs that overlooks town. So if you can get there around sunset, it's a great place to see the sun go down over town. You can see the whole village from their bar patio and the mountains, and it's just a great way to wind down the day.
Ooh, I love a place with a view. That sounds beautiful. Okay, and then do we have anything else planned for after dinner?
After dinner in town, there's a couple fun spots to hang out later in the evening. One of those spots is called Pica Provisions, and it's Leavenworth's version of a speakeasy.
Oh, what?
It's downstairs, underground, in an area that they have a couple wine tasting rooms. But later in the evening, the tasting rooms are closed, and Pica is the only spot down there. They specialize in craft cocktails, and they've got a cool environment, dimly lit, little booths and tables and bar tops, and their bartenders are incredible at what they do. So if you're looking for a fancy cocktail to wind down the day, Pica Provisions is your spot.
Yeah, dang. We went down there for wine, I'm pretty sure. I had no idea. I'm upset we missed that. That sounds fun.
It's definitely worth checking out. Other than that, Leavenworth is known for having live music most nights. You can usually just follow the sounds of where there's loud music playing. In the summertime, it's usually outdoors, and there's a couple great venues that have music all night long or nice mellow music inside somewhere. In the wintertime, it is generally inside, but we've got our crew of rotating musicians that are all rock stars that hang out in town and come from all over the place. So live music is definitely worth checking out.
Awesome.
Other than that, probably head back to wherever you're staying with your crew and rest up and get ready for another day.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Great job of just pointing out to people all the options in the area.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a plentiful zone. I mean, you could spend a couple years here and not do it all. So definitely worth having someone help you out with your hit list. So if anyone's coming to Leavenworth, definitely feel free to reach out to me. And if you want any help putting your trip together, I'd love to help you out.
Yeah, for sure. That is a great service to offer because there are so many options and for all different skill levels. You serve all skill levels, right? From people who are just kind of getting into being outdoorsy all the way up to people who are wild.
Totally. Yeah. I specialize in all of the above. And sometimes people don't even want to go outdoors. They just want to have an awesome weekend of eating and drinking. And I would love to facilitate that as well.
Okay. Let me ask you a few final questions. Your favorite Instagram spot, picture spot, where would that be in town?
Probably the Snow Lake Trailhead, which is up Icicle. It's one of the access points to the enchantments. It's easy to get to. You can drive there, and the views are awesome. You've got the Sleeping Lady Mountain, which is known as, well, it's actually called Edward Peak. And it's known as the Sleeping Lady Mountain because the mountain takes the shape of a woman lying on her back. And it's one of the iconic mountain fixtures of Leavenworth. Okay. And then you also have the Snow Creek Wall, which is a fairly significant rock climbing route. It's about 800 feet tall and sticks up like a big rock dagger out of the side of the mountain. And then you've got the Icicle River flowing right below you. So you've got big picturesque mountains with a rushing river right below you.
Awesome. Yep, that sounds great. Okay, overrated spots. I know you kind of mentioned that Christmas is kind of overrated, which is funny because this is going to be my holiday episode.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that like maybe has more hype than it deserves?
That's a tough one because to most people, just coming to experience Leavenworth it's a great experience. You'll definitely love it. They put a lot of work into making Leavenworth what it is, and it's a very unique place that's worth checking out.
Let me ask you about, and this isn't connected to that question, how do you feel about the Nutcracker Museum? Have you been to the Nutcracker Museum?
I have. And that's one of those places that's almost the opposite of being overrated. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is really cool.
I went in there being like, a Nutcracker Museum? Like, really? Is this going to be fun? And I was amazed by the information that they have about nutcrackers in there and the actual history of nutcrackers. So that's one of those places in town that's like a hidden gem. I bet I walked by that for 5 years before actually going in there. And once I did, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, that would be an example of something in Leavenworth that's worth checking out that you probably wouldn't do on a normal or regular basis.
We really liked it too. I was impressed.
Definitely. The Leavenworth Reindeer Farm is another example of that.
Okay.
I was thought to myself, like, a reindeer farm? Like, what do you just go pet reindeer? But no, they offer a world-class experience. They teach you all about the reindeer. You get to meet all of the different reindeer. You learn about how they live in their home environment, how they live here, and they actually do a great job supporting the reindeer population and have a lot of cool information about reindeer. So
nice.
Reindeer Farm's another gem to check out, especially over the holidays. They're pretty booked in advance, but if you can get into the Reindeer Farm over the holidays, definitely put it on your list.
Okay, great. I love those two additions. Well, let's do a wrap up real fast.
Okay.
Just tell the listeners, why should they be coming to Leavenworth? What should be bringing them there?
Come to Leavenworth to enjoy the mountains, enjoy the recreation here, get a little taste of Bavaria. It's a unique gem in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains of eastern Washington. As you pull into town, you'll just be amazed by how they've stuck to the Bavarian theme, and the mountain access is about as good as I've ever experienced.
All right, fantastic. And tell us how we find out more about you, how we reach out to you if we want to book your services.
Yeah, so you can contact me via my website at theteapotexperience.com, and that's TPOT, not TEAPOT. And my name's Tom Potter, so people around Leavenworth know me as Teapot.
Okay.
You can probably just come into town and ask around a little bit, and you'll probably get pointed in the right direction. But yeah, feel free to reach out via phone. I'd love to help anyone coming to town and make their trip more streamlined and more enjoyable. When I travel, I like to find the guy that knows how to do things in an efficient manner so I don't waste time while I'm traveling. So that's me. If you're coming to Leavenworth, reach out and I'll help make your trip as amazing as it can be.
Yes, me too. That is the best way to travel. That is what this podcast is all about. The locals are where it's at, in my experience from going around in the RV for a while. So that's great. Reach out to Tom.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me. Have a good one.
Hey, you too, Cindy.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Once again, if you want to grab the show notes for this episode, head on over to localsnowbestpodcast.com/33. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love if you'd leave a review in Apple Podcasts and let me know what your favorite part was. Make sure to check out the Instagram post for this episode over at Locals Know Best Podcast, and please feel free to share the episode with your favorite travel buddy. Lastly, if you are headed to any of the destinations that have been featured in past episodes, please tag Locals Know Best Podcast on Instagram. I would love to see where you've been traveling, and I'll be sure to share your story or post with the rest of the listeners. Thanks so much. Catch you next time on Locals Know Best.